My dad texted me one day, open a credit card to help cover your mom's medical bills. A week later, I'm scrolling through Facebook and see my brother posting photos from Miami beachfront resort's cocktails by the pool. Private yacht vibes, the whole luxury package. I messaged him, "Where'd you get the money for that trip?" He replied with a smirking emoji. "Thanks, sis. All on your credit card." "Don't worry, I only spent $150,000. I laughed and typed back, "My card has a low limit. You sure you got the right one?" That's when my phone rang. Dad voice shaking, barely getting the words out. I trusted my dad because he'd handled our family's finances before. "My name is Tamara Tanner. I'm 31. And if you think this is just another story about family helping family, stick around because what happened next showed me how betrayal can wear the face of the people closest to you." The panic in Dad's voice that day was only the beginning. I had no idea how deep this went, or how much it would cost, not just money, but everything I thought I knew about loyalty. If you've ever been taken advantage of by family when you were only trying to help, drop a comment below and let me know. I'm not alone. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications because these real-life stories are coming every week, and the next one might hit even closer to home. A few days after that panicked call from Dad, I couldn't shake the unease. His voice had cracked like I'd never heard before, and he hung up without explaining a thing. I tried to focus on work, but something kept pulling me back to my bank apps. I live in Minneapolis now in a quiet apartment overlooking the Mississippi River. The city suits me: cold winters, straightforward people, plenty of space to build something on my own. 8 years ago, I started my digital marketing agency from a spare bedroom, just me and a laptop. Turned it into a proper LLC with a small team, steady contracts from local businesses and a few national brands. We handle social strategies, ad campaigns, the kind of work that pays the bills and lets me breathe without constantly worrying about money. It's not glamorous, but it's stable. And it's entirely mine. I learned early to keep business separate from personal, different accounts, different cards. That's why I have the gold business card through the LLC, high limit for client travel, or big ad buys, fully insured with fraud protection. I rarely touch it outside work. Back home in Columbus, things aren't as steady. Mom's heart surgery came out of nowhere, a blockage they caught during a routine check. Open heart bypass, long recovery, hospital stays that dragged on. The bills started rolling in fast, way beyond what their insurance covered. Dad called it a nightmare, said they were drowning in co-pays, prescriptions, physical therapy sessions. When he texted asking me to open a new personal credit card with a low limit, just something to tide them over until Medicare adjustments kicked in, I didn't think twice. Dad had always been the one handling finances growing up, juggling bills when money was tight, making sure the house didn't go under. I trusted his judgment. Applied online that same afternoon, got approved for a basic card, sent him the number and details. Figured it'd cover the gaps, nothing more. But days went by with no updates. No charges posted for medical stuff beyond a few small ones. Instead, my brother's Facebook feed exploded with Miami content. Not just vacation snaps, full-on luxury. Him grinning in front of palm trees, sipping drinks on rooftop bars, captioned with emojis and vague boasts about living the dream. I ignored it at first. Maybe he saved up, or got a bonus. But the timing felt off. Then I logged into the personal card statement. Clean mostly. A couple pharmacy charges, hospital parking stuff that made sense for Mom. On instinct, I switched to the business portal. The gold card balance loaded slow, and when it did, the number made my stomach drop. Charges stacking up, recent massive. I scrolled, breath shallow. First, premium round-trip tickets, Columbus to Miami, dated right after Mom's discharge. Then 7 nights at a beachfront resort in South Beach, ocean view suite, daily rate that could cover a month's rent here. Food and drinks every day. Steakhouses, seafood spots. Bars with tabs in the hundreds. A full-day private yacht charter complete with crew and catering. Spa packages, boutique shopping, even a high-end watch repair that didn't make sense. Total climbing past $150,000, every transaction pinned to Miami locations matching my brother's posts exactly. No overlap with the personal card. This was all on the LLC account, the one meant for business only. I refreshed the page twice, thinking glitch. But the details held timestamps, merchant names, geolocation screaming Florida sun. How could he even access it? The cards in my name tied to the company EIN requires approval codes I never share. Memory hit then sharp. 4 years ago, when Dad lost overtime and the house payment lagged, I stepped in with a business line of credit to help refinance. Dad co-signed as guarantor standard paperwork that listed all my accounts for verification, including the gold card number, security details, even the bank routing for direct links. He had everything he needed filed away somewhere, or passed it along. That was when I realized this wasn't a mistake. Someone had handed him the keys. The shock settled heavy, not loud tears or yelling, just a cold wave washing over. My brother choosing yachts and cocktails over helping at home. Posting it all publicly like daring someone to notice. And Dad's call. The panic wasn't for my sake. It was damage control. I closed the laptop, walked to the window, watched snow flurries start outside. The agency I'd poured everything into now had a massive hole, one that could delay payroll, kill upcoming projects. Trust the kind built over decades cracked wide open. Not just stolen money, stolen effort, years of saying yes when I should have said no. I didn't sleep much that night, mind replaying every transfer I'd sent home, every time I'd covered without question. By the end of that week, I knew I had to do something concrete. Sitting with the knowledge any longer felt like letting them win twice, taking the money and counting on my silence. I booked a quiet morning slot and called my corporate attorney, Courtney Vaughn, the one who'd helped set up the LLC properly when the agency grew beyond solo work. I started from the beginning, voice steady, even though my hands weren't. Told her about the charges hitting the business gold card, the amounts, the Miami locations matching my brother's posts perfectly. Mentioned the family medical situation without going into blame, yet just the facts. No one had authorization yet. Someone clearly used it. Courtney listened without interrupting, then asked a few pointed questions when the card was issued. Who had ever seen the details, if there were any shared logins or old paperwork floating around? I admitted the cosign years back, but stressed it should never have given full access. She explained the process clearly. Corporate cards like mine have robust fraud protocols. We could file an unauthorized use report immediately, with the issuing bank freezing further activity and starting a formal dispute. Because it was tied to an LLC with commercial insurance, the claim would route through business protection channels faster, stronger coverage than personal cards. She'd guide the paperwork, but evidence mattered: transaction logs, social media ties, any communication admitting use. She paused, then added gently that family cases happen more than people think, and emotions don't change the legal side. Report it, document it, let the systems do their job. We agreed I'd compile what I had and send it over soon. Hanging up gave me the first sense of control since this started. Not relief yet, just a path forward that didn't rely on hoping they'd come clean. Later that day, a message notification popped up from my cousin Blake, who'd moved back into my parents' house in Columbus after his split. He usually only texted for birthdays or quick updates, so seeing his name surprised me. He opened with concern about Mom's progress, asking if the surgery recovery was going okay from my end. Then he hesitated, dots appearing and disappearing, before spilling what he'd heard. My brother had rolled in a few days earlier, suitcases still packed with new clothes, tan lines fresh. Spent the evening recounting the trip to anyone listening, private dinners, club nights, how the resort staff treated him like VIP. Blake overheard him on the phone with a buddy voice, loud and smug, saying things like, "She won't miss it. She's loaded now," and brushing off any risk. Then the part that twisted hardest, Blake quoted him directly. He said, "You'd never dare report it. Because family." Followed by a laugh, like it was obvious I'd cover for them again. Reading those words on the screen turned the knot in my gut tighter. It wasn't shock anymore. It was raw hurt. The kind that comes from realizing how little regard they had for boundaries I'd never clearly drawn. They'd cast me as the perpetual provider, the one who wouldn't rock the boat, because saying no might make me look selfish. Dad rang that evening, tone measured but edged with warning. He asked if I'd sorted out that card mix-up and said now wasn't the time to stir things up. Mom needed calm, her blood pressure still unstable. Any family tension could derail weeks of progress. His words carried the same old implication: smooth it over, handle it quietly, don't be the one who causes problems. I murmured agreements to end the call fast, but inside the dismissal burned. They weren't worried about consequences, they were banking on me absorbing the loss to keep peace. That night alone in the apartment, the hurt sharpened into something clearer. All those times I'd stepped in without being asked twice, wiring money for unexpected deductibles, covering overdue utilities during Dad's layoff stretches, even picking up my brother's auto insurance when he wrecked his car fresh out of high school. Each one framed as temporary help, always with thanks that faded fast. I'd become the automatic backup plan, the sister whose success meant she owed indefinite support. No questions about how hard I worked for it. No pause before assuming I'd foot the next bill. I pulled up old bank statements, export files I'd kept for taxes but never reviewed like this. Scrolled through transfers stretching back years labeled Mom's copay, house taxes, short bros, books and fees. Amounts that added up quietly, steadily into real chunks of my early business profits. I built folders, timelines, screenshots, not rushing to send anything, just laying it out to see the full picture for myself. The pattern stared back, undeniable help given, freely taken as expected. Their confidence I'd stay quiet wasn't arrogance, it was history proving them right. 2 weeks later, the bank sent the official confirmation the gold business card had been fully locked, with a hold on all pending transactions until the fraud investigation wrapped up. Courtney forwarded the correspondence, noting that the dispute had been escalated to their commercial division for priority handling. Shortly after, the insurance carrier assigned to the LLC policy opened a formal claim. They acknowledged receipt of the initial packet and requested a few standard forms, which Courtney prepared and submitted the same day. She explained that business policies like mine were designed for exactly this swift interim coverage, while they dug deeper, minimizing disruption to operations. The first crack in their confidence came a day later. My brother texted out of the blue, stringing together apologies that sounded practiced but thin. "Sis, I messed up big time. Things got crazy with the bills and I used the card thinking it was okay. I feel awful. Let's keep this between us, I'll start repaying whatever I can each month. Promise." The remorse felt scripted, focused on damage control rather than accountability. No details about the extravagance, no real explanation, just enough regret to test if guilt would pull me back. I left it on red. Then the calls started pouring in, coordinated in a way that left no doubt. Dad phoned first, skipping any pretense of calm. His voice was sharp, accusatory. "You're actually going through with this? Reporting your own brother? You're destroying the entire family over something we could settle ourselves." He painted me as vindictive, said I was choosing money over blood, that no one would forgive the fallout. Before I could push back, Mom took the phone. Her voice frail but deliberate, the first I'd heard from her directly in months. She talked about pain flaring up again, how the doctors warned against emotional strain, how my actions were putting her progress at risk. "How can you be so cruel when I'm still recovering? Don't I mean anything to you anymore?" The 1-2 punch was textbook Dad on offense, Mom deploying her condition as the ultimate shield. Pressure dialed up to force compliance. That's when I understood this was never about my mother's surgery. The health crisis had opened the door, a legitimate need that made asking for help reasonable. But it quickly morphed into opportunity, an excuse to access more, spend freely, then circle back to the same illness when consequences knocked. The trip wasn't a panicked mistake, it was calculated indulgence protected by the threat of stress harming Mom. No more second-guessing. I finalized the evidence package that evening, every past transfer screenshot labeled clearly, the initial messages from my brother claiming the spending. Blake's forwarded texts capturing the arrogance, call logs showing Dad's early alarm, added notes contextualizing the pattern, repeated support over years, always one way, now weaponized against me. Emailed the encrypted folder to Courtney with instructions to incorporate whatever bolstered both the insurance claim and any follow-up recovery. She responded within minutes. This level of documentation turned a solid case into airtight. Once the insurer paid out, their subrogation team would pursue restitution, aggressively shifting the burden off my shoulders. The resolve locked in completely. Hurt had fueled action, but seeing the manipulation so plainly, health leveraged first as justification, then as threat, eliminated any lingering doubt. They'd banked on family ties being unbreakable chains, but those ties had frayed long ago, thread by thread, with every unchecked expectation. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. Not because the money was safe yet, but because I'd chosen not to carry their weight anymore. The morning after he pounded on my door, the confrontation still echoed in my quiet apartment. He'd arrived without warning, catching an early flight from Columbus to Minneapolis, showing up disheveled and furious, just as I was starting coffee. I cracked the door, keeping my voice level. He launched right in, face red, gesturing wildly. "You seriously called the lawyers on me for what money you don't even miss? You're loaded now, sis, with your big agency and everything. Why act so selfish and stingy when you've got it all?" He kept going, saying I'd changed, become cold, that real family shares without keeping score. Accused me of rubbing my success in their faces, punishing him for trying to blow off steam during a tough time at home. The words spilled out, laced with resentment, like I'd owed him access all along. I didn't argue or raise my voice, just stepped inside for a second, grabbed the certified envelope Courtney had rushed over, and handed him the civil summons. Official paper from the insurance company demanding restitution, court date circled in red. "This isn't me anymore," I told him. "Sign the acknowledgement or don't, but you need to leave. Now." He stared at the documents, color draining, then tried one last push. Something about talking it through like adults. I closed the door firmly, locked it, and listened to his footsteps fade down the hall. The fallout spread faster than I expected. 3 days later, Courtney sent a screenshot from a Columbus local news website. The story had made the rounds because civil filings are public record. The dollar amount caught attention, and the sibling angle added instant drama. The headline was blunt: Columbus man ordered to repay sister $150,000 after alleged credit card misuse on Miami luxury trip. The piece laid out the key points: unauthorized charges on a business account tied directly to high-end vacation spending, insurer stepping in for recovery. They pulled one of his open Facebook photos, him grinning poolside with a tropical drink, sunglasses on, timestamp right in the middle of the charges. Readers commented hundreds of times within hours, shock at the amount, debates about family loyalty, warnings about entitlement. A few locals recognized the names, adding vague hints about always knowing who paid for what back home. Seeing it all in print shifted the ground under me. His private excuses, the family-only narrative they'd tried to contain, no longer held weight. For the first time, his version of the story didn't matter. That same evening, Mom rang from the hospital during one of her regular checkups. She was crying before I even said hello, voice breaking as she pleaded, "Please, honey, call it off. He's your baby brother. He messed up. He knows it. He's sorry, truly. Don't put him through this. Forgive him for all our sakes." She went on about how lost he looked, how the publicity was humiliating him, how a little compassion could fix everything. Painted a picture of a scared kid who needed his big sister, not punishment. I let her talk, offered nothing back, and ended the call, gently but firmly. The tears felt familiar, another layer of pressure, but weaker now against the facts. A week later, the turnaround I'd been waiting for arrived. Courtney called with the update: insurance had fully approved the claim. Every dollar credited back to the company account that morning, no deductions, no delays. The business untouched, ready to move forward. They'd already triggered the next phase, subrogation. Formal demand letters sent, payment plan options outlined with wage garnishment and credit reporting as enforcement if he dragged his feet. The financial weight lifted instantly. Payroll secure, upcoming campaigns on track, no lingering cloud over operations. More than that, the public nature stripped away the last leverage. No more whispered negotiations or guilt-laden calls. The truth sat out there, documented and undeniable. Relief settled deep, the kind that loosened muscles I hadn't realized were tense. Workdays felt lighter, evenings quieter. The constant background worry about the next family emergency faded. Truth being public meant I didn't have to defend my side anymore. Strangers saw the pattern clearer than I'd let myself for years. Validation from outside without me saying a word. The lightness grew with each passing day. Boundaries weren't just set, they were visible, enforced, permanent. A couple of months after the papers were served, the day of the civil hearing finally came. The courthouse in downtown Minneapolis felt impersonal, gray stone walls, metal detectors, echoing corridors filled with strangers hurrying to their own battles. I arrived early, dressed simply in business attire, Courtney already at the table reviewing notes. She gave a reassuring nod as I sat, reminding me this would be straightforward, present facts, let the record speak. Across the aisle, my brother sat stiffly beside his court-appointed attorney, crooked eyes fixed on the floor. No family flanked him, no dad, no mom. Just him facing the consequences alone for once. The judge entered